Dr. Kasonso, we're going live. Good evening. We're going live. Good evening.
Good evening.
Live already.
Hello? Musaba Chailunga. Patrick, keep your Facebook open so that we can chat from there. Patrick, I've sent you a message in Facebook.
Our viewers, welcome to this special segment of the Bakwetu TV, which is called One on One with Dr. Kasonso. This is a program where we talk about current issues in business with focus on Zambia. Our viewers, welcome once again to Bakwetu TV on this Monday segment of the TVBakwetu, which is called One on One with Dr. Kasonso. Today we'll be talking about the current issues in business and finance with focus on Zambia. My name is Patrick Chilufya and I'm your host today. And before I could introduce my guest or my co-presenter, who is Dr. Kasonso, I just want to talk about how the kwacha is faring with other convertible currencies. At the close of business today, the US dollar to the kwacha was buying at 17 kwacha 61 ngwe and selling at 17 kwacha 66 ngwe. The British pound was buying at 23 kwacha 8 ngwe and selling at 23 kwacha 15 ngwe. The euro was buying at 19 kwacha 37 ngwe and selling at 19 kwacha 43 ngwe. The South African rand was buying at 1 kwacha 20 ngwe and selling at 1 kwacha 21 ngwe. The kwacha posted small gains and appreciated marginally above rates obtaining in the last 2 weeks. The kwacha has continued to hold relatively strong against the major convertible currencies. Dr. Kasonso, welcome
Yes.
to Bakwetu TV.
Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure to be back again.
Dr. Kasonso, your volume is very low.
Okay, let me just seek to adjust it. Is it up to date now? Is it up to par?
Yes, no, sorry, your volume is okay. I wasn't using my phones.
Let me try to raise it.
No, you're okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, welcome to the program, Dr. Kasonso. We know our viewers today. We've got a guest in our midst, a special guest in our midst, and he's no other than Mr. Musaba Chailunga. Mr. Musaba Chailunga is a highly experienced data technology professional based in America, New York. Yeah, based in New York.
Based in Canada. He was in
Canada. He was in New York, based in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Chailunga is also the founder of the Object-Oriented Development in Africa and is the president also of that institute. Mr. Chailunga, welcome to the program. Please introduce yourself to our viewers.
And thank you very much, Mr. Patrick Chilufya. And I would like to thank Bakwetu TV for giving me an opportunity, and more directly, my brother, Dr. Jones Kasonso, who thought I could have some input on the subject of the day. And thank you for having me, and to your viewers as well.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you so much, sir. Our viewers, you can see that today it's going to be a hot day. We've got very hot topics to talk about today. So please start. It's a continuation of yesterday's program, more or less. So please start sharing the program on all our platforms, including YouTube, and also start sending those stars on Facebook, and also subscribe to Bakwetu TV, because if you don't subscribe, we won't continue bringing the programs and also bringing Dr. Kasonso and experts, Zambian experts like Mr. Chailunga. Welcome once again, Dr. Kasonso and Mr. Chailunga.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, yeah, thank you so much. So we're gonna go straight into the topic. We're not gonna waste our time. I'll start with Mr. Chailunga. Here at Bakwetu, we don't care whether you're a guest or what. We'll start with you. Yeah. So first of all, I think we'll need a brief background about yourself, and then you can answer this question. So, what is the short and long-term outlook, in your opinion, on the Zambian economy? Mr. Chailunga.
Okay,
And
thank
also
you very
briefly tell the viewers who you are. Just briefly before you answer that question.
Okay, I would like to
How you
believe.
find yourself in America? You're the founder of the OOD Institute. What is it?
Okay, I was born in Zambia, in Lusaka, the Invest Teaching Hospital, a long time ago, but grew up in Mufrira, on the Copper Belt. So I consider myself as someone who's from Mufrira. I went to primary school and secondary school there. Then after that, I moved to Lusaka. Just like an overview of my life in a nutshell. In high school, I wanted to become a Catholic priest. So for one reason, whatever reason, I decided not to go, even though I was one of those accepted to enter the seminary. It so happened then I joined National Hotels as a management trainee. Then from there, I worked at the Savoy Hotel. I loved the kitchen, so I was working in the kitchen. During the Luchembe coup, I lost my job, and from there, I waited a while. Then I went to the United States to study. I studied business administration, but it was at a time in the early 90s when
Your camera has moved, by the way. I don't know. Oh, fantastic.
Yes.
Continue, please.
In the early 90s when the internet was just getting, to go. So I decided to switch to information technology. Moved to Canada, studied computer programming, and I've been in the industry now for more than 20 years with professional certificates and certifications that include Oracle University, HarvardX, Software AG, and more recently, the now renowned Google Cloud Computing. Now, with that in mind, with that background, I decided to write a book which I titled Object-Oriented Development in Africa. And the reason for this was that during my interaction in software development, I learned that object-oriented programming was based on real-life objects. So what I did was to reverse it again, bring it from software to real-life objects. And basically, the concept is how you have to have a very planned way of doing things, starting with creating a requirements documents for rural communities. And it's from that we decided to create courses for it and an institute. And at the moment, we have students in Zambia, Kenya, and the UK and Nigeria.
Oh my
So that's the nutshell. Yeah.
My God, that's fantastic. So Zambia needs people like you. But one thing in your introduction, all our guests who come here, we cross some paths. You mentioned you worked at Savoy. I worked at Savoy also in the early 90s. I think the general manager then was Mr. Magaba.
Yes.
Yes.
When Magaba was there, I was there.
I worked in the casino. I worked in the casino.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
I
So
mhm.
let's move on. We'll talk later. So now
Okay.
I've got a question for you. And so what is your short and long term outlook on the Zambian economy?
In terms of economic development, really, short term and long term can be categorized first of all in a political sense, right? The political sense is usually limited to political terms, which is usually 5 years, and then within that 5 years, the ruling party can decide what is their objective will be in the first few years, looking to what would happen towards the end, right? Overall, I can't speak for the government, but before before the government was even formed, or even at the time when they won the election, I could see that. I mean, this is not a secret. It's not like one is a genius, but we're all aware that the country was not in good shape, right? And my observation, despite what most people thought or whatever campaign promises were made, at least my own observations was that Zambia's debt would continue to climb, um, um, mostly because the government would have to fund most of the social programs and even development programs that they had campaigned on. Now, in terms of development, the short term is 5 years, the 5 to 10, and the long term is like 10 to 30 years. And now this is where, when you're dealing with government, you have to have a vision, and you need to have leadership that has a vision, that are doing things not just to win elections or to please cadres. And this is how you see, because most people, especially in a country like Zambia, where we have a situation like it is now, people want to see results today. People want to see a lot of things happen within a short time. But when you are running government, you have to be cognizant of the long-term outcomes, right? And I think all things being equal, and looking at the pronouncements that the president has made, I still think that the debt would climb. However, it will also help trigger growth, because that's the only way we are going to fund growth. And then, if everything goes according to how the president looks at it, because he's trying to also to stimulate the private sector, it means that even with the growing debt, the growing GDP might reduce the debt to GDP ratio. And in my opinion, debt growth should not be a major worry for Zambia as long as the GDP grows. So that's my observation.
That's fantastic. That's a very powerful analysis. And then, but my brother, you've mentioned about something that I coin as fixed it quick syndrome. Zambians want things that are so quick. That's why we are the problem whereby everybody in the last 10 years wanted to become a cadre, because once you become a cadre, you'll be getting a box of money and you can display it, you can get rich quickly. What is your advice to Zambians? Because this government is like somebody is involved in a terrible accident, fatal accident, and is bleeding, and the paramedics come and they are rushing this person to the hospital, it's not an easy thing, because to start with, they have to stop the bleeding and then treat that person. What's your advice to Zambians? Because it's not going to be a quick fix it so quick, and Zambians want things so fast. They don't want to wait. They can't grow a tree for 10 years. They want something so quick. What's your advice?
This is a cliche, right? It's a cliche when people repeat. I think everyone has heard this. It's not new. It was made popularized by President Kennedy when he said, "Ask not what the country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." Right? When you look at today's situation, I think there has to be a willingness by the people to do certain things on their own. Now, there are certain things, no doubt about it. There are certain things that only government can do, right? But in a country like Zambia, where people buy knives, everyone uses a knife. Every house has a knife. In a country like Zambia, where everyone uses a chair or a couch, right? So we have to start thinking in terms of, can some of us make just a knife or knives and make them well, so that when people are buying knives, they are able to buy Zambian knives, right? When we are making furniture or tools or whatever, those who are gifted, who have the ability to make things, let them make them. And those who have some money, who are able to buy things, let them buy these things from Zambians. Now, this is very simple, but in reality, because if we are spending even $1 to buy a Chinese knife
and toothpicks,
I mean, it's $1, but 18 million Zambians, that's $18 million. Now, that puts pressure on the currency. $18 million puts pressure on the currency. It weakens it. When it weakens it, prices, the exchange rate is adversely affected. It's against the Zambian kwacha.
we are importing everything.
Exactly. Right? And even the furniture. Sometimes we just have to find a way to sacrifice. You see, like in the United States and Canada, the Japanese vehicles are very popular. However, the Americans make American cars.
The Guzzlers.
Yes. They are very expensive on gas. Even in terms of pricing, they cost more than most Japanese vehicles. We are not saying the American vehicles have better quality. That's not the point of the discussion. The point of the discussion is that the people that buy American cars, that choose to buy American cars, they choose to buy it mostly because they want to promote American jobs. They are not thinking to save $2,000 or $3,000. They are willing to pay more. And as Zambians, we have to be willing to pay more to support our businesses.
That's fantastic. I'm going to come back to you, my brother. I think it's getting hotter now. Over to you, Dr. Kasonso. Where do we go from now? Where do we go to?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chailunga, for that. Kind of comprehensive outlook on the short and long-term prospects for the economy of Zambia, what can be done, and things like that. I have underlined one statement from what you have said, and this one statement is, our concern, government should not be concerned that the debt is growing more than they found it, as long as there is accompanying growth to the economy. I like that. So today we continue on economic development through innovation and the adoption of creative technologies, and we are zeroing in on this one as part 2. I invited Mr. Chailunga because he's a business, economics, and information technology expert as well. So that as we talk new technologies and the adoption of these, we have someone with not only the technical know-how, but with hands-on experience in an advanced economy. So where do we go from here, Mr. Chilufya? Last week when we started talking about economic development and the new adoption of new technologies, we started it generally. And we talked about an economic jump, a technological jump, and we differentiated the technological jump from the leapfrog. And in the leapfrog, we are saying that we have to have the latest technologies in a cross-cut areas. We mentioned in the service industry, service provision or product creation. We spoke about different areas, but one of them was actually energy. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about the renewable energy aspect of it. So I want us to try and drag this conversation on economic development in Zambia and innovation and the adoption of new technologies, particularly in the area of renewable energy. You know, we've had many years of load shedding in Zambia, and we are not completely an economy that is industrialized to the degree that we need to make emergency the issue of a green economy. But we are here, and the government wants us to, yes, we may be green, yeah, right now, but the government wants us to not only maintain the green economy, but sustain the green economy. So this is where we discuss the technologies in the renewable energy industries. That's where we are, Mr. Chilufya.
So Kasonso, how do you characterize the government strategies on the adoption of new technologies in relationship to renewable energies? You touched a bit about it.
Yeah. Thank you so much about that question, Mr. Chilufya. The government definitely has picked this as a significant area, and even a ministry called the Green Economy and Ministry, the Green Energy Ministry, Green Ministry, has been introduced for the first time since the founding of the Republic. So it means that the country has begun a process of collecting competencies in this area and building these competencies, as well as making them the basis for going forward, so that we never lose track of maintaining a green economy. So far, how I can characterize the government's strategy, we are yet to hear a major pronouncement in this area. But we are aware that the president, once in the UK, he signed a lot of treaties and agreements and initiatives in this area of the green economy and use of green technologies and what we can do with them in the Zambia. Yes, but we are yet to see anything on the ground. And we are also yet to see a definitive public policy on this issue. So it is very important that we begin to participate in this conversation, and so that as government brings out the policies and the strategies for this, we are able to allow the citizens to understand what is going on and what is the purpose of that. So we are just, from the perspective of the new government, I believe I would be correct to characterize this as still in the drawing board. And there are no major green initiatives that have been announced in all the 10 provinces of Zambia from the government. and not that we are aware of.
Yeah, Kasonso, why are you still there?
Mm-hmm.
If you remember properly, and it's in the manifesto of the UPND, the government that we supported, President HH said, going forward, because if you know, HH won the elections on the backdrop of two things: fighting corruption, which is, leadership, and then two, creating jobs and opportunities for Zambians, especially the youth who voted for him. And one of the things he said openly was that going forward, all the new investments coming into Zambia, they have to go 50-50 with Zambians. Now, just a few days ago, there is a plan by First Quantum Minerals to start a solar wind power, 250 megawatts. So that will mean ZESCO will stop selling that 250 megawatts, which means there will be a loss of income to ZESCO and to Zambians. So, Kasonso, so with this plan by First Quantum Minerals to stop participating in our power grid by creating their own electricity company, competing with ZESCO to power their mines through solar and wind energies. What are your thoughts about this strategy?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chilufya. First of all, we have to be able to highlight First Quantum Minerals. Probably they're not the only ones, but they announced their plan. And what it means is that they are one of the companies that have decided to take a leap to lead in the adoption of new technologies, particularly in the area of energy. And that's what we mentioned, part of what we mentioned in the leapfrog. So, yeah, but in taking the leap for that and trying to lead in that direction, they are bringing completely a new company, not in their business. Remember, First Quantum Minerals are there to operate in Zambia. Their licenses for minerals. So what it means is that now they have decided to also venture out in investments in electricity. So a few things that we have to do. The first one is to review their terms of reference. Is it within the contract that they signed for investments in Zambia, First Quantum, to move from investments in the mining sector to the energy sector, like creating an electricity company? So if the answer is yes, then they've passed the first stage. But if the answer is no, then we have to provoke corporate supervision regulations in Zambia. Corporate supervision regulations in Zambia means that if the company's license is to operate in the mineral, to explore minerals, what should be done if they want now to create a new company or a subsidiary that is going to provide electricity? So if they have passed through the hurdles and all of those kind of things, we need that information to become public. Because me, as a professor of accountancy and business expert, I will be honest with you. When a company creates a business strategy that goes outside of its main domain of business, it's known as conglomerate diversification. What that means is that no matter what they do, they are creating a new company. So if they are creating a new company, it must be subjected to regulations and investment regulations on that part. So if, and then let's move a little bit from there, Mr. Chilufya. Let's mention also something to do with them carving out for themselves a power grid. So you had mentioned it very categorically, that they would inadvertently be disconnected from our Zambian power grid, and then they would create their own power grid. So they'll create their pretty much their own little country or little own section within the country, which is self-sustaining. It is normal in business strategy when a company is operating, and one of the main key components that they need for their industry to be successful, and the smaller company that they get their stuff from is facing stiff competition for its supplies. The company would usually go, even if it's out of their business, they will go and take their money and invest to take over that so that their supply chain is secured. That is proper business strategy. Yeah, but for a mining company to create an electricity company, that is not conglomerate diversification. It is something else.
And 250 megawatts is massive.
250 megawatts means that it's not only the mine that will be supplied. It will probably be the compounds and probably in the cities in which they're operating. So what it means is that this company has taken liberty to enter the energy industry. Now, we have to do two things. Number one, what does the law say? Two, how do we supervise a company that is going to operate in this manner? Clearly, when ZESCO operated for many years, including other electricity providing companies in the Republic of Zambia, the mines were always at the forefront of energy. The mines were always at the forefront of where we should provide energy first. So now these brothers of ours who have the license to operate in the mining sector, they've probably already purchased those dungeons that they dig the mines, the things from, and they probably don't pay anything anymore on account of that, except we have to look at their financial statements, and they pay maybe a royalty and some corporate tax. We know tax is a mathematical formula. It is not a definite benefit that goes to the government. So excluding taxes, maybe just royalties, that is the only amount they operate on that. And on top of that, they want to take over part of the energy production in the country. We have to review that, and we have to review this investment portfolio and understand to what degree and to what extent is it beneficial to the country. And to what extent are the stakeholders in this company even benefiting from that? So, so let's just open it up that way. This company is entering a new business for which they never got a license. And they have already earmarked the company that is going to build it, and they have every plan to do that. So now we have to ask ourselves a question. Is this what they came for? Is this correct? And what benefit is this to the country? And to what extent are the local communities, the cities where they are established, even going to benefit from this? So this is a discussion we need to have tonight.
Very interesting, Dr. Kasonso. And I'll come back to you for more questions. And for now, I'm going to move on to Chailunga, Mr. Chailunga. Maybe I need to bring him on the spot. Yeah, Mr. Chailunga, Kasonso has just explained a bit about what's happening in the mines, and we're going to dig deeper into that later, or maybe in other programs going forward, because we are still in the dealing with the same topics. But Mr. Chailunga, are the mines in Zambia doing enough to contribute to the economic recovery? If not, what needs to be done? And also bearing in mind net zero announcement by First Quantum Minerals, is that a positive development? In your opinion, what's your view?
I was
Looks
muted.
Like it's freezing.
No, I was muted, so
Can
I'm
you
fine
get
now.
me, Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm okay now. There are two things. Basically, directly when we just talk about mining, I think every Zambian would agree that the mines are not contributing at the level they are expected to contribute to national development. That's in a nutshell. Now, mining, even if mining was, say for example, was contributing 100% of its revenues to the Zambian coffers, the money wouldn't be enough. The money wouldn't be enough to support the Zambian economy. And this is why diversification of the economy is required. However, for the portion that the mining sector is supposed to contribute to the economy, it doesn't. The net zero proposal is basically what Dr. Kasonso is trying to talk about, because that's the reasoning for trying to bring in wind and solar energy, because they are trying to contribute or to reduce the carbon emissions, the CO2 emissions. So in that sense, in theory, it's a good idea. It's like there are certain things that are a good idea, but they are only a good idea if you are doing them yourself. See? Say for example, First Quantum was ZCCM. And when I say ZCCM, I mean ZCCM of say 1980, 1989, where it's a Zambian controlled entity. And ZCCM used to build subsidiary companies or satellite companies to support its operation. And the benefits, the profits, even the losses, but in the event of profits that were being generated, were all to the benefit of the Zambian economy. In this situation, what
Dr.
we have...
Kasonso, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Mr. Chilufya. And can you hear Mr. Chailunga explaining the zero net emission and its impact on the mine?
Mwelwa.
Yes. Now, in this situation, where the first Quantum, we know that they are not contributing at the level that they should as a mining entity, right? And the other contribution was that they were paying rates to ZESCO, right? So now, if they are going to bring in a different company, which again, in legal terms, I don't think, if the report is saying they've even signed a contract and the company is I think is a French company that's going to build all this, about $500 million worth of it. On paper, and again, if this was being done by an indigenously owned entity, excuse me, then there won't be a problem in terms of revenue and in terms of benefits to the Zambian economy. But in this case, what we have is a foreign entity dipping into the Zambian economy. And now we are going to have to pay for the power to the providers of this wind and solar in foreign exchange.
Yeah.
Right? So basically, a Zambian mine will be importing Zambian power generated in Zambia. And that's where I think this is a very tricky situation. Legally, fine, but business-wise, in terms of Zambia, not good.
Yeah, Mr. Chailunga, recently I was at, I think a few years ago, I was at, so when you say, sorry, I'll explain about the symposium which I attended. So when you say business-wise, not good, already you see that this is a company that is taking everything from Zambia. The copper prices are very good, everything, they are working very well. And now they come up with this idea that they have to get some more from the very place where they are taking nearly everything. Is that even business?
No, that's why I'm saying in terms, you see, business is the business to the owner of the business. You see? And this is why, for example, terms like social enterprise, or I think human capitalism, terms like that are used, right? Because there's nothing illegal in setting up a solar and power generation. There's nothing illegal. And as a business case, it makes perfect sense for them as a business case. However, as a business case for Zambia, it doesn't make sense.
Mr. Chilufya, you can carry on from where you are. Mr. Chailunga has finished explaining whether the first quantum arrangement is a positive development for Zambia. So you can carry on from there.
Yeah, but Kasonso, I'm so sorry to the viewers. All of a sudden, we just lost our internet. They must be doing some technical work. Now I'm using my phone.
That's okay.
I was using my computer. Yeah, so I hope I'll be able to. I'm using my phone now. So I couldn't even listen to what Mr. Chailunga explained.
Don't worry about that. Let's just carry
anyway,
on.
We'll move on. And thank you so much, Kasonso, for holding the phone. Yeah, so Kasonso, what are the perils of such conglomerate diversification in the mining sector? Like what?
Yeah, Nalalanda Mchibemba.
Yes, London Mchibemba.
Ba first quantum balolesha abena Zambia ko bekere makamaka kola kumpanga shabaka ondoko bekali loko bekalire era bampera middle finger.
Yes,
therefore balesha ba first quantum. Yeah, so the company that came there to do the mining, I think would be honorable and respectful to stay in the mining sector. Yeah. Now, Kasonso, they are not just coming to put a plant. A solar farm requires a lot of land. This is our land. This is the land that belongs. This is our customary land. They're gonna deprive the people, and our land. HH clearly stated, our land is our title deed. And if it's our title deed, that's our collateral. Yeah. So why can't we go in a joint venture into that business? You see, we are not even asking for a joint venture first. We have to reassess and question from the very beginning if this enterprise operating in our country is even useful to the people.
Yes.
We have to look at the welfare of their employees.
Yes. And not only that, the welfare of the people who live around.
The welfare of the people who live around those areas. Yeah, we have to. We'll talk about that. We'll bring out these perils. You know, we here in this land where we live, we have a company called Amazon that has mushroomed and come back from nowhere. The employees of Amazon, they work for Amazon. They get a check. But more than that, they also get stock as a benefit to them. So the people who work for Amazon are also owners. That is the largest company here today that is operating today. Now, if you go to First Quantum Minerals in Zambia, just a few years ago, 85% of their portfolio was operating in Zambia. And their balance sheet total at that point was equivalent to the GDP of the country, of Zambia. But if you look at their expenses on the people that work for them, apart from the wage bill, which when the last time I made a calculation on that was probably just 3 or 4% of the clash of expenses in the income statement. So it means that at the very best, the benefit that they would have been able to give is to employ people. But the people of Zambia need to understand that employment is not a benefit. Employment from an investing company is not a benefit, because employment is work, hard work and sweat.
And it's benefiting the owner of the mine.
That is with the person who's getting the benefit. So if you want to talk employment, that is not a benefit. The people who go and work for those people are not paid even enough money, even anything. They are not shareholders of those companies. We have the largest company operating in the economy, which gives zero benefits to people who work there. Go to Amazon. Their employees are shareholders. They have stock in those companies.
Yeah, but Kasonso, just hold that thought. I worked for BP, Castro and BP, from 1997 to 2006. These are foreign companies operating in South Africa. But when you look at starting with the investment, the corporate partnership with the community, and then they gave us share options, Kasonso. Every share you get one free. And then not only that, not only your salary, we were getting performance related benefits. We are also getting a 13th check in December. So these are proper investors. Why has Zambia allowed investors that just come to suck?
You know, I was at an investment symposium 4 years ago here in Washington, and I went to brag about them to them. And the people there were laughing at me. And they gave me data about them and said, hey, look, wherever they invest, do they give anybody or do they help those people with anything? There are those people who come and take everything. You, the people of Zambia, you've been watching them. Panova, I never back on the coco. I never back on the coco. Why are Cocoba poor any man? You know, Abu Pajinga Kinzanza, Kinzanza, Mubamkash, and the Bankamba taking a cash. Underneath there were thousands of dollars through copper. What those villages get from that investment? Nothing. Copper today is selling at an astronomical price, where we are even creating millions of electric cars around the world based on the input of copper. But what do the people there get? There are no stock options for their employees. The employees are not shareholders. The communities in which they operate, they are not stockholders.
Not even that, Kasonso. Suppliers are complaining that they are buying everything abroad in pretense of capital equipment. Even a spanner, they classify it as a capital equipment.
So this is a company that was welcomed amongst our people, but it has rejected the people of the environments which it has come to operate. Imumwabaleta yo niba investor bale imba bale bomba bwino bachanero bafika kule imubamikana fonsta bale fwaya nefya zesko tabale fwaya bala ipangina company yabo ya malaiti bala pangana kachalo kabo mwino Mzambia. Ero nomba muleya mukulira ku State House ati yo bali wabantu iso tubosishe ko emitengo shafiwe alafu nyose ndalama apa pange ndalama Mzambia tabale mifwa mwebe na Zambia. Why are you going to be wanting such people in your country when they don't want you?
Then ndalama chonse chile ya ku Switzerland.
No, we don't care. You know, in the 21st century, proper investments are shared benefits.
Yes.
Shared benefits between the stockholders, the investor, the communities in which they come, the country in which they live with. But these are enterprises who have rejected the people of Zambia. They don't want the people of Zambia.
You know, Bakasonso.
Yeah, and they don't want to give them anything. They want to take everything.
Bakasonso,
Yes.
if you remember, if you listen to me all the time, I always give an example of the South African BE, where the government decided this is the law, whichever company operates in South Africa, supplying everything, 40% has to be South African. And then we go to Botswana. Botswana says 50-50%. De Beers goes to Botswana. They want to open a gold mine, which became the largest producer of gold in the whole diamonds in the whole world. The Swanas said these diamonds belong to the Swanas. So you are mining our diamonds. So we are going to go 50-50. We're not going to put a cent. And they formed a company called De Beers, which is a joint venture of Botswana and De Beers. Why can't we do that? Because if we allow these investors to come into Zambia and we give them everything, they take everything. They don't care.
Yeah, that is how organizations are operating in a global economy of shared benefits. But these companies which are coming to take everything, namuli business yabazesko bengiremu. Nabale ya kwanyinanga tabali fwa abe na Zambia. Namuli business yabazesko sho bengiremu. Nayo bale ya yonse, nayo bale senda. Kubipe mitima kwa msango shani uko. Chilufya.
Yes, I'm listening, Bakasonso.
Yeah, when they were creating this country, copper mining is a hallmark, is a part of the birth of the country. None of us went to school without the contribution of copper mines. But the largest company operating in your country, with the balance sheet totals almost equivalent to your GDP, they take everything. But namuli business yabazesko na mwaisa bengiremu basende kubipe mitima kwa shani uko. Tell me, you Zambians, why are you sitting there docile, watching them? Why are you sitting there? A job is not a benefit. You are the one who goes there to sweat for them. So you are their slaves. There must be stock options for the employees, stock options for the local establishments, and there must be some money left in the country. In the 21st century, it is a period of shared economic benefits. There is no winner takes all here. No. So, by new Dawn government, that which First Quantum Minerals is trying to do is not business. In the first place, the people of Zambia are not getting anything from the 10,000 per pound, per ton of copper. Namuli business yabazesko bengiremu. Twalaika shani nomba.
I think Bakasonso, you spot on. You've seen even Musaba, I'll bring you in a minute. You've seen videos on YouTube abroad. This is done by white people talking about Zambia copper, how these investors have come and robbed Zambians living on the center in Kitwe. So are we gonna continue like this? Musaba, you next on the chopping board. So Bakasonso has talked about all these, the evils of these companies coming, only to come and suck our blood. So in the light of what is happening, especially with the gas prices, what should the government do to mitigate the rising cost of living? Over to you, Mr. Chailunga.
I mean, Dr. Kasonso very passionate about the topic with First Quantum Minerals. When we look at the current situation, I think the government has very little wiggle room The reason being that, first of all, when the new government came into power, when they were campaigning to get into power, they knew things were bad. But when they went and looked at the books, they realized things were worse than they were. The president had even said the treasury was empty. Right? Now, we can't say he lied, because a few months earlier, the PF government defaulted. So if you default on your debt obligations, it means you have no money. Now, when you look at gas prices, there are two things that can reduce gas prices. First of all, we have to acknowledge that the prices of gas are going up everywhere. Everywhere in the world, not just Zambia, everywhere, including major oil producing countries like Zambia and not Zambia, the US and Canada. So for countries that have good economies, they are just letting the people pay, right? For other countries, what they are doing is that they are trying to remove the tax that's added to the price of gas. You remove it, then the people at least get to pay less. The other option is to add the subsidy, right? Now, in a country like Zambia, when I look at the discussions that people are having, I can see that most people don't even know what a subsidy is, because a subsidy, government doesn't have to say subsidy. It has to come up with the money, because the person who's selling the product has to get the money that they want, and the subsidy is a top up on what's missing. Now, in Zambia's situation, Zambia has no money, meaning that it can't come up with the money to pay a subsidy. Then Zambia is collecting taxes to cover some of the things they have promised, including free education and the hiring of 30,000 civil servants. Now, if Zambia was to reduce subsidies, not reduce subsidies, had to reduce tax, it's like now they are foregoing some kind of revenue. When that happens, it means that Zambia is going to have less than they had. Like, you are going to have, they are not going to meet a lot of obligations based on the plans they had before this escalation of fuel prices. So in that case, there's very little the government can do, and for now is for the people. I think the people, and most people would not be able to accept it, but in North America or in other places, people park cars, right? In Zambia, and then again, there's a lot of political discussion. People want to discuss everything from a political angle. You just want to prove that someone is wrong and someone is right, right? To save money, there's no point in driving everywhere. There's no point in making unnecessary trips, right? So people have to start figuring out ways to save their own money, because we have to acknowledge that the government, as it were, actually does not have enough money.
Now, Mr. Chailunga, why are you still there? You're right. Some of us who live abroad, we can actually mitigate that ourselves. Like myself, I decided to buy an electric car, so I don't worry about fuel.
like myself, I decided to buy an electric car. I don't worry about fuel. Then 2, I don't go to work driving. I go by train or by bus, and it's cheaper. But it's different from Zambia. They don't have a good transport system. Imagine there are no trains, there are no trams. So don't you think we need to do something going forward? Because also pollution, all those vehicles in Lusaka, congestion, noise, all that is pollution. And also, don't we need to also, the president has spoken about removing the middlemen in fuel procurement, or in the supply chain, or even going to Angola and buy. What do you think about that? Long term.
I think long term, like I'm saying, right? Already, you see, it's interesting. The problem in Zambia is not actually the price of fuel. That's not what the problem is in Zambia.
Unemployment.
That's one, but the bigger problem is the exchange rate.
Mm-hmm.
You see, that's the biggest problem. And for people to be paying, say for example, in theory, right? In theory, when the PF government got into power, the kwacha was 350.
About 5 kwacha. About 5.
Okay, about 5 kwacha.
Mm.
Now,
To $1.
let's say the kwacha didn't go crazy. It means gas, for example, would have been costing 5 kwacha, about 5 kwacha today. Let's factor in inflation, it will be maybe 7 kwacha. Let's say with this increase of gas related, directly created by Ukraine, it means gas will be 11, 12.
Or 10.
Or 10. Right? But it's the same dollar value. You see? So the problem in Zambia, we want the gas to be priced at less than $1, which is not possible, because even the Americans are paying 7 to 8, right? Dr. Kasonso, per gallon, right? More than double. You see,
we're actually paying $4 a gallon. In the minimum. In some places, it's even a lot more than that.
Yes.
Yeah. In the UK, we're paying almost £2 a liter.
Yes.
Which is about 40 kwacha, 42 kwacha.
Exactly. So the issue in Zambia is not actually the price of gas. It's the exchange rate.
But the other thing about Chailunga, can so many people afford, in Zambia? No. Because in the UK, it might be bad, but a lot of people can afford. They can still afford.
No, I'm not saying it's okay. Right? I'm not saying it's okay. I'm just saying that when we are trying to look for the solution, right? If we start talking about removing the middleman, it won't help, because I don't think the issue is the middleman.
Yes, when it comes to oil and gas, the middleman is not even in Zambia. The middleman is abroad. So it's a totally different conversation.
Yes.
But when we are talking supplies from the inside of the country, the more middlemen you remove, particularly from government supplies, the cheaper government services will be to the citizens.
Yeah. No, okay. But not for the.
We need to redeploy most of those middlemen into the productive sector, so that we can produce product that can generate an income for the country, potentially for export markets, or to avert the bringing in of exports, so that people have stuff within their own country, so that things that we can grow them. Things we can build them. Things we can make them around us. That removes the pressure even from the currency. So
Yes.
if we remove the pressure from the currency would stabilize. So a big chunk of why the currency keeps going down and deteriorating every time is particularly because of the industry of suppliers. Because they have to get out of the country every time to get everything out of the country every time. And we have to also import some things that we don't have as a matter of necessity. So you put pressure in double ways. Part of it is the corruption, and part of it is a necessity. You can survive like that. And the currency keeps deteriorating. So to put the currency in a seat where it is focused well and it's developing towards the correct targets of building an enduring society for our people, it's the productive sector that has got to be reinvigorated to save the nation.
Yeah, now, Kasonso, why you still there? The government needs to revise policies towards mining companies. What should be the gist of such policies?
There have been years of bad policy in the mining industry. So we've ended up with vouchers. We've ended up with companies that are not helping us. And the problem is this: you cannot create a direct government policy that they don't accept because of their international reach. They are going to malign your government, and the mining companies themselves, we are going to come and impose the sanctions through other indirect connections on your country. So what we have on the books of Zambia are very dangerous people. You can't touch them, but they don't want to help you. That's one. Two, the government needs to use its position to renegotiate a lot of those mining agreements they made. There is no country in this world that sells all their mines to foreigners, and the foreigners don't pay anything to the government apart from taxes. The companies that pay you only taxes are your own companies, not foreign investor companies. Foreign investor companies, they bring shared benefits to your country. They take something and you also take something. That cannot be said about the current mining arrangements.
Like what is happening in Botswana? 50-50.
What's happening in Botswana? We're not saying they cannot invest in electricity. But if they are investing in electricity under the same terms as their investment in the mines, well, then they can go to hell.
Then we are in trouble.
Zambia will not get anything out of it.
We won't go anywhere.
Everything from it, yes. So the policies towards the mines, and let me now speak in my right authority as a tax expert and professional. The tax on a company is not a benefit for the government. The tax is a responsibility of an entity to that government. So, and the tax itself, if you look at tax, even if you slap them with 70% tax, they will do everything else to show you that they can't pay that tax until 60 years from now. The tax is a mathematical formula. Lusamushi. You can't subject a benefit or getting resources out of companies only to those taxes. The mining policies should be revised to reflect a partnership between government and foreign investors. Kind of like we are in this together. But right now, they're in it for themselves and only for themselves.
But Kasonso, just hold that thought.
So let me summarize this thought. This thought.
Okay.
The policies towards the mines should be summarized in one sentence. Bwana tula twabane. Bwana tula twabane. Bwana Alex takolonganya finkorongo fyofyonse alonga mama track atobe misebo yenwe ya talipira enough taxes ya kuchako repair ni misebo. Elo atenda fyonse ayashitisha kwa nyina asungira nindala makuja kwenye. Ubuteko bufire bwachita confronting me God bati bwana tula twabane. There must be shared benefits. The ownership of those instruments, so the stockholdership of this new conglomerate enterprise should not be less than 50% for the Zambian people. Already you've let them have the mines for free. Of course, they paid everything. They paid you for 1 year and everything. They've done that. That's okay. But the policy should say to these conglomerations, Wana tula tuabani. Thank you.
Kasonso, why are you still there? I think we can do it. South Africa did it. Kasonso, when I moved to South Africa, just 2 years into their independence or freedom, they had already passed a law on BE, Black Empowerment. And it says 25% of all the businesses in South Africa should be owned by the Black people. And maximum was 40%, up to 40%. And I was working for Castro. BP bought us. And you know what BP did? They said, we're going to turn Castro into a Black empowerment. So the entire Castro, a multi-billion business, was given to the Black people. All these banks we see in Zambia, FNB, ABSA, they are 25 to 40% owned by South Africans. You tell South Africa negotiated through the laws. They gave them time. They gave them 5 years.
Yeah, but I'll tell you something else, Chilufya. When you look at these mines, after they dig those trenches and they leave, there is a depletion cost on those structures and on those assets and on those lands. The thing is, after that, we have to factor into the cost of restoring those lands so that they can be used.
Restoration, yeah.
Restoration costs. Now, in the absence of agreements that gives a stake or stock ownership to either the chiefs or the communities that will be permanent there for even after the company has left, so that they would have resources to restore that piece of real estate to other users, it's not even there. What kind of business are we doing, Chilufya? If you Zambia, they mine yawe. They mine in doing kusta audit. Kuno mine to check. They mine to Zambia. If it's like moibika fi mfuko mumbalala shenu shali efu mwa shirikere mfuko mule shitamba no kushiripirisha po mbalala shivi. No. You can't live like that. You can't be a country like that.
No, Kasonso. You're the one who said you went to a forum somewhere and you were boasting about the mines in Zambia and they laughed at you. These are white people. And I've met white people here in the UK who is saying, what's wrong with you Zambians? Investors come, but to start with, bad investors. They get everything out of your country. All they leave is polluted water and center. And you leave them. And then Kasonso, the worst thing now is they don't pay their workers properly. They bring up expatriates from abroad, and then they are buying all the supplies now outside the country. That Copper Belt and Northwestern Province, these are the provinces that made HH into power. And if there are no jobs there, if people are disgruntled, what's going to happen? Because most of the people in the Copper Belt depend on supplying. And if the mines are buying boats and nuts from abroad, classifying them as capital equipment, then we are in trouble because they don't want now. We had an expert yesterday, William Fonka. He was saying 3 billion supply budget for all the mines in Zambia. Not even 1% was spent on Zambians.
Government. government, since the people of Zambia are not getting anything out of this, and if the government is not able to negotiate anything from these people,
not even taxes, they don't
not
pay.
even taxes. Nishi, bafumemo bonsabe na Zambia, baleke okubombako, bafire kefye, babaleke kefye basungu baleke kefye bachale. Let them here be as colonialists, and let's fight them from that perspective. Because they're not helping anybody. They're not helping the country. They're not helping the communities in which they are. They are not even contributing to proper business development and training. They're not even how much they contribute to the School of Mining at the University of Zambia. School of Mining at the University of Zambia was developed by who? That was by the mines. I am imigod whatever first quantum but contribution. If they don't want to contribute and the government can't get anything out of them, let all the Zambians pull out of there. So that then we'll fight them as just colonialists. And then we can have our minds back. Because their business practices are not business. I am a business expert. What they're doing is not business. That's colonization.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kasonso. Now we're going towards the end of the program. I can see Chailunga is itching to talk. I'm gonna give you time to talk. It's 5 minutes. Your closing remarks, if you can summarize, talk about what Kasonso said, and Chailunga, what's the way forward? You know that we've been robbed badly by these miners. Look at what PF government signed with the is it Mopani? It's terrible agreements. Over to you, Chailunga. 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you again for the opportunity. But I think in fairness, and again, in fairness and in my opinion, I would like to think that we can't entirely blame the mines for the mess, right? It's a messful situation, but you see, it's not that the mines did not give us anything, but we allowed them not to give us anything.
That's the point I wanted you to say.
So it's not, and all these negotiations are done at the initial stages, right? You gave an example about South Africa after apartheid ended. The similar situation happened when Zambia got independent. We had a similar situation, right? And we started nationalizing. We started at less than, we went for a long time. In fact, it was 49 to 51.
And then we decided to grab everything.
Yes, we grabbed everything. And then we ran it into the ground. Right? Now, there are other issues there that caused it. Right?
No. I think I need to cure that statement. We didn't run it into the ground. Sanctions were imposed on us. Business sanctions were imposed on us because we were supporting the liberation movements. It was a way to cripple Kenneth Kaunda. They tanked the copper prices so that you're not using any proceeds from there to use it. So we can't say we tanked everything.
No,
okay, so let Chailunga continue. We'll talk in the background.
Okay.
That's not.
Over to you, my brother.
Yes.
All
right.
Your camera is upside down, my brother. Okay. Continue, my brother.
Yes. So what I'm trying to say is that even when we look at the situation now, right? First of all, you see, in Zambia and Africa in general, we want to get certain things. We have this sense of entitlement.
No, we do not.
We have this sense of entitlement. And because we have this sense of entitlement, we take a lot of things for granted. And when you say we take a lot of things for granted, is assuming that because the mines are in Zambia, we are going to get what's due to us. You see, ababembe balanda pakwaka novunga tapabensoni.
Yes.
You see, now pakwaka novunga takwabo kwaka novunga lilia bonse basendamo epo lili esakatabala isula. Ero now we mean that no in any never name in the West Sakeri, they'll give me yes, that's not how it works. You see? Because now once people take, now they are in control of it. And that's what happens. Now another thing is that Zambia has actually a lot of copper. And the technologies are increasing such that even the poorest quality of ore can produce a lot of copper. And this is why people are making money and people are dying at the Black Mountain. Because whatever could not be extracted before can now be extracted. You see? Now, why am I saying this? I'm saying this because, you see, when you look at Zambia, Zambia is made up of provinces. Each province is the size of a country on its own, with its own potential mines. You see? From Northern Province, Muchinga, Luapula, even Lusaka. And this is why now we are talking about Lower Zambezi. Now, instead of right now focusing on how doesn't the situation repeat itself, there's Lower Zambezi, there's a mine. How do we ensure that when this mine comes online, we do not have the same experience with the other mines? We are distracting ourselves with, oh, it's a game park. We can't mine in the game park. These guys are already, they are writing documents. They are signing papers.
Yep.
When the mine starts, then 10 years or 20 years from now, we start fighting now for the ownership, the content. What do we get? This is the right time to say it. If someone does not agree to give up a certain percentage of ownership in the Lower Zambezi mine, at different levels, because remember, in Zambia, we have 4 levels of government. We have the traditional government, we have the local government, then we have the provincial government, and then we have the central government. You see, in these countries where we are, taxes are done at all those levels. If one level of government wants to give a tax credit, let them give it.
Yes, that happens in the UK.
You see, if they want to give a tax credit, let them give it. But the other levels have to get their share. And these are the things that we have to be saying. We have learned something from the past. Instead of trying to break an egg, a shell which is already hardened, let's work with the one that are soft. And then the next level, why don't we bring our own mines online, which we can. And then we can even raise money to start buying into the mines that exist that we can't afford to buy into. That's how we should be looking at these things. Instead of crying, hoping like these people feel sorry for us.
No,
they are not going to.
They're capitalists.
Never.
So, but Chailunga, what has gone wrong with us? You know, government after government, we make the same mistakes. We hope this government learns from the mistakes as a government. Look at the mess Edgar Lungu and them left.
I think, let me give you an example.
Who has bewitched us?
It's not bewitching us. You see, look, let me give you an example. You are in the UK, Dr. Kasonso in the US. Do you know why when a police person shoots a black person, why they usually get off? Because, you see, when some of the deaths that we have seen, it's so obvious right? That the guy shot the guy for nothing. We just take it for granted that he is going to lose the case. But the law has technicalities. Even when you bring in witnesses, you have to be solid, you see? And this is why I'm saying, in Zambia, we take a lot of things for granted. We think by virtue of being Zambian, we are entitled to these things. And yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. However, there are legal documents. You see, I'm not a lawyer, right? Your colleague here, Bakwetu, Dr. Elias, is a lawyer. Lawyers define even name. When it says name, they have to say in that document what name means.
It might be patented.
Yes, when someone
Musaba Chailunga might be on Pakla.
Yes,
as a patent.
Yes, when it says honor, you have to say what honor means. You don't just assume honor is honor. There are certain things even I have learned recently where I just assumed, like with my book, for example, right? You sign rights, ownership rights, 100% rights, right? However, distribution rights go ahead ownership.
So somebody can grab your book.
No, they don't. No, they don't grab your book. It's just that every time you sell a book,
they get the money.
They get paid first. You see, these are things, and it's because you take certain things for granted.
You know, Mr. Chailunga, where are you still there? I still believe in this government. And some of these things we're talking about, HH promised us during the campaigns. And my prayer is that we begin from, if we don't do it, because we have to start with the new investments. You've already mentioned, obviously, those investments, they've got contracts already sealed. You remember when Sata came into power and he said Zamtel wasn't properly sold, and he grabbed it. He thought he could just come and grab it because it's a Zambian company. What happened? They took us to court, and we owe money on that Zamtel thing. So we're coming to an end of the program. Kasonso, your closing remarks. We will talk and talk the whole night. Okay. Over to you, Kasonso, your closing remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chilufya. Yeah, we have talked about economic development from the perspective of innovation and creating of new technologies. This brought us to recognize the new technologies in the energy sector. And we see that whereas the blueprint hasn't yet been put forward by the government, we already have leaders in this arena, and the leaders are the minds. And here we have pitched our trouble, that the minds providing leadership in the energy sector brings conglomerate diversification. It means that they are going to have to operate outside of the areas for which they were licensed to operate. They are establishing perhaps new enterprises. And given the background and the last many years of how we have operated with the kind of minds and the investors that we have in Zambia, we do not approve of such diversification if they are going to be 100% owned like the way the mines are owned, because it's our feel that the people of Zambia are not getting their fair share out of that. We respect contracts were signed, but we also know that in changing times, contracts can be renegotiated, policies can change, and government can reinvigorate an industry. And in the 21st century of shared benefits, there is no need for an investor to come into Zambia and take 100% of the proceeds and just walk away. We have children to raise, and we've got a country to build. In the most important and most powerful assets of our country, it is very important that this republic shall consider the benefits to this generation and the benefits to the next generation. We are sitting on millions and millions of unemployed youth in our country. And our country is kneeling at the doorsteps of the International Monetary Fund here in the Washington for only $1.4 billion. And yet such amounts of money can even be secured within the borders of Zambia, save for the bad contracts and the bad agreements that were signed by previous governments that technically were not savvy and professionally not competent to understand the impact of business contracts and what happens overall in years to come. We are speaking to the conscience of our generation in our country, that we have a country. We cannot continue to allow this. Our government needs to go to our most preferred investors with the largest portfolios, taking the most assets and resources out of our republic from our fathers and our mothers' villages, and say to them, in Bemba, Bwana, tula twabane. Or Kwilamba, the same words would be said, Bwana, tula twabane. The 21st century, in terms of business opportunities and investments, is a place of shared economic benefits. For a long time, our people have been taken for a ride. The taxes are insufficient as a benefit to the country. Even jobs that are gotten in those enterprises and the mines, our people are the least paid in similar types of industries anywhere in the world. We cannot continue on this trajectory. We object to the notion that First Quantum and other mining corporations should pull out of the nation's power grid and create their own electricity companies. If they must do that, those enterprises must be 50% owned by the people of Zambia. Thank you for seeing us today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kasonso, and my brother Musaba Chailunga. Thank you so much for coming. You guys, oh my God, you've got talk time. We could go on and on for the next 1 week. Thank you so much once again. And Mr. Chailunga, I pray that you come back and so that we can come and talk about your book in detail. Our viewers, thank you so much. I can see those stars coming, and thank you so much. Thank you so much. There was somebody sending the stars there. I've just forgotten the name somewhere. Yeah, Mark Cubs. He sent up £5 stars for Kasonso. Kasonso spitting facts again. Look at that, Kasonso. £5 worth of stars.
Oh, wow, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Our viewers, thank you so much for your viewership. We pray that God bless and protect our mother Zambia, protect our leaders. Thank you so much once again. Good night and bye for now.